So our first discussion will be on air pollution, and we're going to start with outdoor air pollution. And so we want to define what that is, and we have primary and secondary, so we want to make sure you know what those are. So pollution is really high levels of anything that can be dangerous. Natural dust, wildfires, which we're having again in California, volcanoes, which we don't have many of, and even plants will put out chemicals. And then a lot of human activities, especially here, would be in Southern California, would be cars. And so here's what I want you to know. Primary primary pollutants are ones put out into the air directly, and then secondary pollutants are ones that are either converted or mixed. So either primary pollutants are coming together or and mixing, or they're mixing with something else. So here in this picture, you can see some of the primary. Carbon dioxide would be a primary, and sulfur dioxide, nitric oxide. So all of these are the primaries, and then over here you can see some of the secondaries. Okay. Major outdoor pollutants, carbon oxides like carbon dioxide, nitric oxides, and nitric acids. I mean, I could read all these to you. But you can see some of the things. Now you notice ozone down here, so maybe we want to talk about ozone. Particulates would be little pieces of matter. Fires would be putting those off right now. You can see the ash in the air. Ozone is, again, a protective layer up in the stratosphere. But ozone at our level is actually not good. It does damage to lungs. That's one of our primaries here we'll talk about. And then VOCs are volatile organic compounds. These are given off by a lot of our products. Unfortunately, and they usually have an odor, which I always talk about in class. One of the best parts of having a car, I guess, is that new car smell. New car smell is actually a bunch of VOCs. It's chemicals coming from the plastic. It's chemicals coming from the carpet. It's chemicals coming from the glue. And we always, think, oh, keep the windows up. I want to keep that new car smell. Let me breathe in heavy. Oh, it smells so good. And yeah, you're all going to die. That is all those cancer-causing agents. What you should be doing is rolling down those windows, getting rid of those things. And that's even with paint. There's two types of paint. There's the water-based and oil-based paints. Water-based paints are better for you. They don't have as many VOCs, and you can wash them down with water. The problem is they don't last as long. The oil-based paints, those are the ones that have high VOCs, but they are a lot more durable and last longer. All right, so there's really kind of two different types of smogs. One is industrial smog. This is usually put out by burning of coal, and this is something that you would see kind of more back east, where they're heating their homes with coal, where the companies are burning coal for industry. And then we have photochemical smog. And this is the brown air smog. This is what we have here in Southern California. It's a mixture of primary and secondary pollutants. And then the key here, and what I want you to remember, photochemical smog is it's with the addition of sunlight that causes these things to change. And so LA, which is that picture down there on the bottom right, that is our major smog here, heavy areas of ozone. All right, so reducing outdoor air pollution. Heavy particles are actually unfortunately better because they will fall out. If they're heavy, they hit the ground. As long as they're not disturbed, you're not breathing them in. Another one is rain and snow. You've been in California after it rains. The air is beautiful. You can see LA. That will take the particulates out of the air. Salty sea spray. So our coastal air tends to be a bit better than the valley air. Winds, again, Santa Ana winds come in and blows all that pollutants out. And then chemical reactions. There are things that can actually happen that as those reactions happen, some of the particulates and some of the problem chemicals are taken out of the air. Increasing air pollution, unfortunately, is urban buildings. You're blocking the wind. You're blocking the ability for it to blow out, along with hills and mountains. Same exact thing. The reason we have such bad air here in Southern California is we used to be called the Valley of the Smoke. Even before we had cars, we had pollution from fires here in Southern California. And so the Native Americans used to call this the Valley of the Smoke. We're this big, huge bowl, and it sits in. High temperatures. Southern California has high temperatures. Emissions of VOCs that is given off by plants. There are trees that give that off, but also all of the plastics and chemicals that we use. Vertical air movement. Warm air rises. We have an inversion layer. It's a area of air that has a temperature change very quickly. And what this does is it kind of blocks the air. And so as warm air rises, it can't get past that inversion layer, and that will actually hold in the pollutants. And so you get this layer of smoke. And movement across borders. Air pollution has no borders. It doesn't, so countries around us, we get upset with Mexico sometimes because they have fewer controls on some of their industry than we do. And so that air does not stop there. And actually the fires today, we're seeing this is actually making it to Europe. So there are no borders when it comes to air pollution. And then the last topic is we'll talk about is acid deposition. This is also called acid rain. That's the old term. It's not rain. It's really anything that has a pH of 5.6 or below. So I want you to know that number, 5.6 pH. The lower the number, the more acidic something is. And so what happens is we get pollutants up in the air, and it comes back down as acids, and sulfuric acid and hydrofluoric acid, and those will do damage. They harm crops, they harm plants, they kill lakes and streams. They make it harder. It's hard for the respiratory system. And so this is definitely a problem, acid deposition. And if you look globally, where are these problems? And you're going to notice that for us, it's really on the East Coast. We have some problems here. There was actually a lake in, I think it was Virginia, that had a pH of 2, which is the pH of stomach acid. And pretty much that lake had died. And so you can see here of all the problems, and it doesn't, again, stop at the border. I said something about Mexico coming up, but if you look, their acid precipitation is not bad. But what actually happened here is Canada was pissed. They're known as the land of 1,000 lakes, and all of this stuff, all this red stuff here is from us, and it's going up north. And I'll tell you, Canada was unhappy with us, and Ronald Reagan was president at the time. And they said, hey, you got to do something. And our president said, yeah, what are you going to do? Attack us? And so, this is a world issue. But again, I want you to know that the East Coast is probably worse off than we are. And we'll go ahead and stop the share, and we will stop the recording.